A neighbor leans into the doorway while you're mid-glue on a joint that can't wait, and says, "Could you just real quick help me with something?" You say yes, because it's quick, because it's small, because refusing over something tiny would make you the difficult one. 90 minutes later you're still carrying furniture up someone else's stairs, glue drying wrong on the bench behind you. Nobody forced you. Nobody even asked for 90 minutes of your day. They asked for a quick favor, and you supplied everything after that yourself. This video is about the exact phrases people use to take your time, your labor, and your money without ever technically asking for them, and the sentence that shuts each one down before you've handed anything over. Nobody has ever asked you for a quick favor that was actually quick. You're at your bench, clamp tightening on a joint that needs pressure for another 10 minutes, and your neighbor leans into the doorway. "Hey, could you help me just real quick, carrying a wardrobe up to the second floor?" You wipe your hands. 90 minutes later you're alone on a landing, shoulder screaming, sweat through your shirt, and the man who asked has touched exactly 0 corners of that wardrobe. He directed. He apologized about the tight stairwell. He never lifted. Here's what happened before you even said yes. The word "quick" did the negotiating for him. It told you the size of the job before you'd seen the job, and it told you how to feel if you said no, petty, over a quick thing, really. So you didn't evaluate a 90-minute furniture move up 2 flights. You evaluated a favor the size of holding a door. Those are different requests. Only one of them got spoken. This is the mechanism. Quick isn't a description of time, it's a preloaded verdict on your refusal. It arrives attached to the ask, so the ask never has to stand on its own. So delete it. Every time. Hear "quick favor" and mentally strike the word, then look at what's actually being requested, on its own weight, before you open your mouth. Because the wardrobe wasn't the only thing that left your workshop that day, the drill he still hasn't given back never got a deadline either. There is a very specific reason people say borrow instead of keep. Keep means you're handing something over. Borrow means nothing happened at all, it's still yours, just somewhere else for a while. That's the whole trick, and it works on people who've spent decades building things with their hands. The woodworker had one good chisel set. German steel, hand-forged, the kind you buy once. His apprentice needed them for a commission, just one job, just to get through it. 3 commissions later, those chisels are living in the apprentice's own toolbox, in the apprentice's own truck, and when a client asks him what he's working with, he says, "The ones I use. Not the ones I borrowed. Not the woodworker's. His." That's the mechanism. Borrow doesn't just describe a transfer, it cancels the need to track one. Nobody writes down a due date for something that was never really given up. There's no return conversation because return was never scheduled, it was implied, and implied things expire quietly, on their own, without anyone deciding they should. So change what the word triggers in you. The moment someone says borrow, ask yourself the question they're skipping: when? Not if you're okay lending it, when it comes back. If there's no answer, you already know what you agreed to, whether you meant to or not. Because some people won't even need the object anymore. Just so you know, they'll say, they'll just need you to feel like the one who's behind. The phrase that sounds like information is actually a demand wearing a disguise. A man comes to pick up a table. Solid oak, finished top, weeks of work. He runs his hand over it once and says, "Just so you know, the last cabinet maker I used sanded twice as fine." That's it. No request. No complaint, even, not technically. He picks up his keys like the conversation is over. And the woodworker spends the next 2 hours resanding a finished table for free. Nobody asked him to. That's the whole trick. "Just so you know" is a phrase that hands you a fact and lets you supply the obligation yourself. The customer never has to say, "Redo this." He never has to justify a demand, never has to risk the word no coming back at him. He just leaves information sitting in the room, and the other person, the one who takes pride in the work, the one who doesn't want to be thought of as behind, picks it up and turns it into labor. That's the disguise. Information doesn't ask for anything, so it can't be refused. Only requests can be refused. So here's the move. The next time someone offers you a fact you didn't ask for, right before or right after they needed something from you, say it out loud. "What are you actually asking me to do?" Watch what happens to the sentence. Watch how fast it either turns into a real request, or disappears entirely. Because most people can't repeat the ask once you've made them own it. One person's opinion becomes unanimous the moment they say everyone. A woodworker at a guild meetup gets pulled aside by a man he's spoken to maybe 4 times. The man says, "Yeah, people in the trade are saying your prices are getting a little high." Not a client. Not a complaint anyone filed. Just this. And the woodworker, who has never once been challenged on a quote, goes home and second-guesses a number he built from real material costs and real hours. That's the whole mechanism. People are saying, and everyone thinks so, don't report a consensus, they invent one, on the spot, using the speaker's own opinion as raw material. It's a single data point wearing a crowd's clothing. And it works because nobody wants to be the guy arguing against everyone. You can defend yourself against one man's take. It's much harder to defend yourself against a vague, faceless trade-wide murmur that may or may not exist. Here's what collapses it instantly. You ask, who specifically? Not angry. Just literal. Who said that? Watch what happens. The crowd shrinks. It becomes, oh, just some guys, then it becomes silence, then, if you wait, it becomes the truth, that it was this one man, standing in front of you, uncomfortable that you charge what you're worth. Every invented consensus has exactly one author. Find him, and the pressure comes from someone you can actually look at, which is a very different thing than someone you can actually thank. Notice how the compliment always arrives right before the request does. A woman brings her grandmother's writing desk into the shop. She runs her hand along the veneer and tells the woodworker that nobody else in the city could be trusted with a piece like this, that he's the only one who understands wood the way his father did, that she drives 40 minutes past 3 other shops just for him. He's still nodding, still a little warm from it, when she asks if he could rush the repair and skip the deposit, just this once, for her. That's the transaction. You didn't see it happen because it was dressed as affection. Praise delivered right before an ask isn't a compliment, it's a down payment. It puts you in her debt before you've agreed to anything, so that saying no doesn't feel like declining a request, it feels like betraying a relationship. The gratitude wasn't about the work you already did. It was rent paid in advance on the work she wants next. Here's the separation you need to make. Take the sentence about your talent and delete it from the conversation entirely. What's left is just this: rush the job, waive the deposit. Answer that sentence alone, on its own terms, exactly as you would if a stranger walked in and said it cold. If the answer changes depending on whether the compliment was attached, the compliment was never really about you. And once you can spot that trade in her mouth, the next place to look is closer, because you've been running the same trade on yourself for years. The most convincing version of this move happens when nobody else is in the room. It's 10 at night. The client went home hours ago. The piece is basically done, good enough, contract fulfilling done. And the woodworker is standing over it thinking, I'll just add the extra carving on the base. It's quick. It is not quick. It's a full day. Sanding, resetting the tools he already cleaned, staying late tomorrow to make up the time he's about to lose. Nobody asked him for this. No client emailed. No one standing there with a compliment loaded, waiting to cash it in. He did the whole transaction himself, in his own head, in under 4 seconds. That's the thing worth naming. Every phrase you've learned to catch in someone else's mouth, the small one, the borrow, the neutral tip, the invented consensus, the gratitude paid early, you already know how to say all of them to yourself. Nobody has to manipulate you once you've learned to do it unsupervised. It's just a quick thing. I should just be grateful for the work. Same shrinking of cost. Same silencing of the bill. Except now there's no other party to get angry at. Just you, alone, negotiating yourself down. So here's the actual test, the one that works whether someone's across the table or nowhere in sight. When a request shows up dressed as small, stop and price it honestly, out loud if you have to. Hours. Materials. What you lose by saying yes. If it still holds up at the real price, do it. If it only worked at the discounted one, you already have your answer. Look at the cabinet on that bench now. The extra hours in the joinery, the free resanding, the borrowed chisels that never came back, the discount he talked himself into, none of it was ever demanded. It was requested, politely, one phrase at a time, and he supplied it himself. That is the entire mechanism. Nobody has to threaten you when the right words make you volunteer. The people who take the most from you rarely ask outright, because asking outright can be refused. Listen for quick, borrow, just so you know, everyone, and I appreciate you, not to become suspicious of everyone, but to make sure that when you give something away, you actually meant to.